Okay, here we are today to figure out how to remove the front bumper and core support from a 2017 Audi Q7. As you can see, the tow hook is in place. The starter decided to quit working, so I'm going to try to replace the starter, but to do that, it looks like taking off the front bumper and core support might make that job a little easier. Not sure, but in pursuit of doing that, I figured all would not be lost. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a JHM 187 millimeter crank pulley for some more boost. Do a little blower refresh with some new fluid. Change an oil in the supercharger. Let's see how that turns out. Here's how I did it. In any of these projects, when you're working with the power from the car, any electrical connections, it's good to disconnect the battery and take the bolts out. 17 millimeters. Okay, the next step is we're going to want to get this fender liner out. And you have 9 threaded T25 bolts, right? There's one there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you can't see it, but 8. So those 8 have to come out, and then you have 5 10 millimeter these plastic nuts. There's one here, there's 2, and then there is 3, 4. This back one you want to move out because it's going to help this sleeve come out. That makes it 5, and then don't forget this tab in here as well. So we've got that. We're going to get our T25 and remove these right now. One that you have to get to, it's right here, T25, and then once we get all those, we're going to remove this, and then our entire inner fender liner is going to come out. All of our T25's out. We ended up going, and you're going to have to get your hands in there, or screwdriver. This is a friction fit in here, right? So this is going to be tight in there. Start at the top, pull it down. You're going to have to maneuver it, and basically what you're looking to do is maneuver it off of where your 10 millimeter caps are at. Once you're able to maneuver it off those are easy. Okay, so we just pulled out our last T25 screw here, and in theory, doing the, oh, okay, so the inner fender liner just falls right out. So for the next step, we're going to need to pull this inner trim piece off, and I'm going to show you how to do that right here. On the back side here are some push-through grommets. I'm going to pull them back in hopes of getting a little bit of a better angle on them. So you have 3 grommets, these right here, right? And they push through this area right here, right? So this pushes in here. What I did was, and it's unnecessary to do this, I took some needle nose, I came in, I got on either side of the grommet, pushed down, and they allow you to do this, and then push through on each one slightly. There's 3 of them, and if you look, you can see these tabs here on either side need to get pinched in, and that's what I did. There's 1, 2, 3, and then after that, it's just a friction fit, like Christmas tree fitting. You're going to pull those back enough, and when you do that, it exposes more, 4 more of our 25 millimeter Torx bolts, and that's what I'm going to get to right now. I'm going to remove those, and then I'm going to check back in. This trim piece, you're going to want to remove this trim piece, and you can remove it all the way to the back. And then of course this right here is connected to the bumper, so when we pull it out we're going to want that disconnected. Here's where it starts to get difficult. So you have 4 individual tabs, okay? There. Each tab is held in by that. Well, that's great, but as you clearly see going down the line here, you can only get to 1. 3 10mm bolts here, here, and here. This one you can get to. This one you can get to. This one you're not going to be able to get to it. And then trying to sneak in through here, getting 1, 2, and 3. And then once you've done that, you can see there's a little bit of play in this, but this apparatus is holding all of these tabs in. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little better idea of what's going on here. Now, we have the bumper cover that's over this, right? But now that it's removed, I'm going to give you a better idea. You can get to this 1 bolt. You can get to this 1 bolt here. You can also get to, these are all 10mm bolts. Right here and right here represents what would be the headlight mount. And then these 2 nuts right here, if you could get to these, that would be awesome, but you can't. So let's know that these are there, but they are restricting. Now, as you can see right here, look at this gap. This gap right here, you can see the movement. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more movement because I don't have the headlight mount, but look at this movement. I had 1, 2, and 3. These bolts. Now, as you can see, I loosened this bolt right here, but I mean, it's not going to come any further. So this bolt and this bolt. So you don't have to take the bolts out, but you want to move them quite a bit. So right here is a tab. Right here is the tab on the bumper. Right here. See there? There's a tab there. There's a tab there. There's a tab there. And then behind this, there's another tab gap. See how the distance closes? But it's closing when I'm pushing down on this end. So when you're getting that last tab out, the last thing you want to be doing is having this wedge down. So you want to, if anything, push up on this and then get that out. So how this whole thing again is going to work is you're going to go and loosen these 3 10mm screws, and then what I did was I just got a screwdriver in there and I've turned it sideways, and as you do that, this tab exposes, and then you get in there with a pick tool, and then you're going to pull up on that tab on that bumper skin and pull back a little bit. So hope that gives you a little bit of a better idea on what we're dealing with here. Again, if you could get to this right here, this bolt, everything would be fantastic, but it's just not. You've got the bumper skin here, you've got the headlight mount there, and then with how this is, you're not able to do it. So that gives you a little better idea on what we're doing with there. Move along the access here, and it pulls out further and further. You can see there's gaps. What I was doing was getting a tool in the gap and then pulling up. Okay, this one right here, it's worth noting. And I'm sure you can't see it, but when this back one is in, you can take a pick tool and get it right up here And then when it comes time to get that one, you can lift with a pick tool right here. And this will get that last tab. So here we go. The next phase in doing this is we're going to have to get to the bolts for behind this. And the thing preventing us from doing that is we have the hood release latch. We've got a body grommet here, a twist grommet here, a body grommet here, and a body grommet here. So to go and get these body grommets up, you get a screwdriver in. See if you can see this. And this tab pulls up. So what I've done here is I got a screwdriver in, and you can see I just put that up. So to show you again here, we'll do it right here. Relatively easy. Just in, and then it pulls up, and then pulls out. That one didn't even need to get that up there. Up, out. To remove this, there's a button that you depress and you pull it right up and it comes right out. I'm gonna take the rest of these tabs out and then remove the tray. Okay, so when we've done the twist part of the body grommet, this whole thing just pulls up, and you can see there are these clips. It's going to expose another body grommet here, and then obviously we're going to come over on the other side. This is going to be twisted, and the same thing, we're just going to pick up and set this out of the way, exposing another body grommet here. And then along the front, this is a friction fit, so you're going to need to pop it up. So we have the inlets that are still connected. Once you separate those and pull those, this tray will pull up and out of the way, and then expose the next phase of what we have to do, which is we're going to have to remove this little screw here. We'll have to remove the hood latch mechanism here, and we're going to have to remove that screw right there. So let me look into that right now and I'll check back in. Okay, now that we have both sides successfully pulled out, and I left my tow hook in to help, because I'm doing this by myself, pulling the bumper off, bumper cover. So we've got this, we've got that unplugged. Do a quick check just to make sure that you don't have anything else. I had a front camera, so I unplugged the front camera from up here, set that in this tray, and then this should be able to pull out. The only thing I would say is, just for reinstallation, note how this is. You want to make sure when you're putting it back in, that's how that goes. And then as we're almost ready, release the pin. I'm doing this one-handed, so if it doesn't go well, should be able to just pull, and then that's it. That's your okay. So we got our front bumper off, the bumper skin. So now it's time to get these headlights out. So the way we're going to do that is, let me move you over here. So we're going to go and we're going to take out this entire plastic piece. When we do this, you don't even need to mess with that bolt. we're going to loosen this bolt, another T30, and then what we're going to do to get this out is we're going to disconnect right here. Try not to get in the camera here. Get your pick in. Get the sensor off the rail. And then to get this out, there is a red tab, which we're going to expose the red tab. Pull the red tab back. Once the tab's been pulled back, you're going to push down on the tab. You should be able to hear a little bit of a click, and then the sensor will separate. This sensor needs to get unplugged, and then connector for the power for the headlight. That's right there. We're going to have to unplug that, but for right now, let's get these screws out of the way. It gives us a little bit more room, as I was mentioning before. So it is a combination of 2 screws, which the screws are located T30 screw right here, T30 screw right here, which thankfully, obviously the car's been worked on before, so they didn't put that back. And the neat little thing is Audi is giving you some access holes for these 2 screws. These are more bolts in here, if the camera's giving you access. 1, 2. So we're going to pull those out, and then it is going to loosen this entire tray. So just to recap, we're going to pull this T30 out, this T30. We have a T30 here, T30 there, and then we're just going to loosen this T30 right here. I'm going to do that, and we'll get right back with you. Alright, so getting this last screw out. I said T25, or these are T25s, not T30s. So again, we're going to get 1, 2. We're going to capture this top bolt, give you a little bit of room to maneuver. Then this whole thing pops out like that. Now is a great time. We're going to get up here, we're going to disconnect this connector to the headlight, and then it should just pull right out. Let me set you down. The removal of that should be pretty easy. Get that. Alright, push that off. Then the headlight will maneuver on out. Make sure just to get all your cords out of the way. You're also going to have a headlight drain. You got a hose that drains any condensation from the headlight. It's just a vacuum hose. We're going to pull that out of the way. And that's how we get our headlights out. One nice big piece. Alright. And let me see what the next thing is to do, and I'll check back in. Okay, so as you can see, this is a little access port in this plastic trim piece here. These are used to help divert air into the shutters for the radiator. Anyway, we're going to want to get this out of the way. So a lot of these I notice are missing on cars because I guess people don't know how to take them off. There's a tab here, there's a tab here. It is really simple, and then watch me do it and have it not work. Slightly touch, pulls out, slightly touch, right? I'm going to push in a little bit, you hear the click, and you heard it come out. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to gently work it out, right? So it's caught down here on the bottom, and there you go. So this pulls out. So we've removed this, and hey, look, it's all in one piece, so you can put it back, which is fun and neat. All right, the next thing we're going to do, this is the horn, right? So you're going to take the horn clip, so we're going to take that off. But the next thing we're going to get is we're going to get this air duct out. This right here These, there's 4 tabs. 1, 2, there's 2 on the bottom, doesn't matter, it looks exactly like this. All this is an interference fit, right? It's just press fit. So you push really hard and it comes out. Look at that. And then, you know, clean all your bugs off and serve it to your friends or whatever you do. There's some plugs underneath here. So underneath, get underneath here. So there's a plug here. There's a plug for the air conditioning temp sensor. There's this temperature sensor right here. All right, so the next part is we're going to want to get this plastic piece out and get ready to remove the shutters. So we have 2 10mm bolts. So I already loosened them. So 10mm here, 10mm here. Right, so these bolts come out. This is another 25mm, which I loosened, so we're going to pull that out. This entire apparatus, right, is going to get moved up out of the way, right, just like this. A little tab under there. Don't want to go crazy because all this has to do with the hood. So it is held in place by these clips here, right? And there's another one here if you want to give yourself some more room. So what we're going to do is we're going to get one of our tools in there and we're just going to back some of this out to give ourselves room. Don't lose the clip. You're probably going to want to hold on to that. So the clip comes off just like this. We're going to pull 2 off just to give ourselves a little bit more slack. Get in there. It's an interference fit. Take the tabs off. And then hold on to the bolts in the tab. And then now this, look at there. That's out of our way. Real nice. And we're going to come back to there. Now that we got that, we're just going to take these, push on these tabs here. See, this is now coming off. So we're going to have to get in here and move some of these electrical connections. We're going to have to disconnect this mechanical sensor for the shutters, right? So I'm going to get in there and do that now, and then I'll check back in. And then we're going to get this is the sensor for the mechanical shutter. So you can see right here, we don't have to pull down, we're just pushing right here. This little tab moves, we'll pull that out. We've already taken some of the body grommets out, and this is just going to pull up and then out of the way. And then look here, surprise, look, we won. Look, I don't know why that's there. That's an interesting find. So we have that out of the way, and then it looks like we're ready to get our mechanical shutters out of the way. So let me check in on those and I'll check right back in. Okay, so T25, T25, T25 over here, right? And then you're gonna slide around here. This is T30 that's hidden, right? So we're gonna take those out. It's kind of pressure fitted in there. Bam! Your shutters are out. And that is the next phase in us getting everything off. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're taking off the front crash bar. So there's 4 16mm bolts. 1, 2, there's 3, and then 4, and then this right here is a T25 screw. And then you'll notice, see this right here? This little black plastic notch. Once we take these off, this crash bar is going to have to lift up and over that to be removed. So I'm going to pull out what's left of the T25 screw here. We got that out. And then I've removed all the screws on the other side. So all these screws are out. This is a reminder why we took and unplugged these components here, because they were underneath. All this is out of the way. And now that we've got all that, you can see how that works. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then our crash bar, pull it out. Okay, we're going to pull plastic side. And then we're going to remove this part of the AC condenser. As you can see right here and here, these push together, and then the condenser comes off, and then it can be lifted and then rotated out. Okay, so right here what we're doing is we're going to remove the heat exchanger for the supercharger, right? So this is filled with water. Behind here's the radiator, here's the heat exchanger. Just like we took the condenser off with these two tabs that compress, the exact same thing is happening back here. So these tabs get depressed, and it's the same on both sides. And then you have to remove this overflow line right here. You do that by pulling this tab out and slowly working this up. Now obviously, as you can see, there's some fluid, so the heat exchanger has two connections coming from the pump and then going. We're going to remove these two, drain the fluid, but after we remove that, I mean, the heat exchanger is free to get removed. So we're going to drain the fluid and then get this out of here. Okay. So you get your pliers on here and wiggle the hose. See how the hose moves? What you're really doing with the pliers is you're just breaking the vacuum seal that's been in there. And then, you know, make sure you have your pan. Now up here, this is vacuums. There's still vacuum in there. So what you're gonna do is if you open this up, it will help release the vacuum. And then more of your coolant. See how it's sped up? So now that we've taken the lower and the top hose and then the overflow hose, this unit is free to come out. And then we're just going to drain it. Look at all this. All this right here. Look, honey, I don't even know what that is. This stops. This is like clogging the radiator. You know what I mean? This is all underneath the shutters. You can see where the shutters is, but you've got 30% of the radiator that's blocked and not getting any airflow. Okay, so we've removed the debris and the heat exchanger for the intercooler, and now we're going to get to the next steps, which is we're looking to take the entire front core support off. So we've got these side radiators on either side. We're going to want to remove these lines right here, because right here and here on both sides is a 30 millimeter Torx that we're going to pull out. But before we do that, we're going to want to remove some lines and some electrical connections. So right here we've got the horn. So we're going to remove the horn. This connector here is tied in with these clips. We're going to want to pull these out of the way. Set them up here. These wires we're going to want to pull up. Set those out of the way. And then we've got right back here, I don't know if you can see it, right back here, this is the cord to tell us whether our release is set and if the hood's open or not. The two T30 screws that are in here, and when you do it, use a magnet because it's a really weird design in here. So once you loosen these screws, they're in this little recessed area. Not really sure why it's like this. The magnet to get the screw out, to get a magnet. Now look, helpful tip, when you're putting this back in, the way this notch right here is, it's really weird. So when you're putting it back in, to make it easy on yourself, get this bolt on here and then just put a little electrical tape to keep the bolt on here when you're reinstalling it. That's just to make sure that this doesn't fall. If you got a magnetic tip to your T30 Torx, well, you're a baller and you are way ahead of the game there. But so what we've done is we've loosened these auxiliary radiators from each side. The only thing is, again, on both sides, we're gonna have to take these hoses off as the next step in our journey to get the entire front core support off. So I'm going to get on that right now and check back in. Okay, so we've gotten our hoses disconnected. We've gone and we've gotten our electrical connections up top out of the way. We've gone and we've pulled and removed. We've pulled this clip out and removed this coolant line. I don't know how easy this is going to be under the car. Hold on. Alright, so there's a few things you have to do. You're going to have to take off this radiator hose here. You'll have to disconnect these two body wiring harnesses. This tab slides out and then you're going to pull it off. But they get corroded, and what you're going to want to do is slide a screwdriver and push up that tab back there, and then these two will both come unplugged. You're going to be fighting with it unless you push back that tab. You'll then have to come down here, remove this coolant hose from this line that runs across, and then disconnect this and that. So 4 hoses. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. All these are going to have to get disconnected, and I'm going to do that now. We're going to have to get this off, right? So this radiator coolant hose connection off. I don't know how well you can see, but here's what we're doing. We're going to take this radiator connection out, and it's really hard to see, but you have to get in here with your pick and pull up the tab in there. I don't know if you can see it. We were getting these off. Here's this clip, and this is where we're knocking it with the hammer on the top and the bottom to get them out. So it's off. I'm going to remove this clip so I don't the leg. Again, it's really kind of hard to see. I don't know if we have enough light. But what I do to separate all doubt is I just remove the clip in some of these really difficult to get to areas. So here's the clip, completely removed. Let's get our magnet in there and get the clip out. Okay, so the clip is out. The next thing you want to do is get a little bit of lubrication on the area where we're going to be working, right? And then with a blunt screwdriver, you want to put it on the flange or the flat spot of that body side and just ever so gently tap. And there you go. It's off. The next thing we're going to have to do, M10 here, and M10 triple square here, M10, M10 triple square, Okay, so we're going to get the hood latch cable disconnected. Important. Come back over here, take the cable out, pop it out of this right here. It'll pop out. This will give you more room. You don't want to do that here in a minute. So let me come back over here, zoom in. Alright, so you have these tabs right here, right here, right here, and right here. Pull the tabs gently back. On each area back here, and this cover comes off. Once the cover's off, this cable comes in here and wraps around, right? Pull the cable, and then take it out. Get this out, move this out of your way, and this is done. You can put the case, the cover right back on top of it so you don't get anything in there. But there's only that one lead. So now that we got that out of the way, we're one step closer to getting the front core off. Okay, we took our last T30 screw out. Here we go. The core support is balancing on something, or not balancing, but it's propped on something I have below. So now, really, to the next phase in our journey. Our front end off. Now we're ready to slam on our giant pulley here, our 187. I want to point out that mark right there. That's your reference mark for degreeing the pulley when you put the pulley on. If you don't have that, getting the right orientation of this is going to be a problem. So you're only going to see it underneath there once we've exposed the bolts. So these are, again, the M10 we used earlier. But as you can see, there's two belt roots. One specific for just the supercharger, and then the inner belt, which encompasses the alternator and the air conditioning unit, on top of what I believe perhaps is power steering. So, or just a idler pulley. I'm not sure behind that. Anyway, so we're going to take this belt off, but it's important to recognize the orientation. And what I did was I took a marker and I wrote belt 1 and then the direction of the belt, right? So we know what direction the belt rotates in. So when we come back to put the belt back on, we will know where it is. The way to loosen the bolt is to get on the tensioner and pick up on the tensioner, and you'll see the tensioner, 16 millimeters for this idler pulley. And this idler pulley, I'm going to guess, is probably the same. Let me check that out. I'm going to label the belt here as belt number 2, which obviously the lengths are so much different. I don't think it's going to be difficult to figure out which belt, but I'm going to put our direction in which the belt rotates so we know when to put it on. Minding the orientation, I'm going to double check and see what that is and loosen the tension and get this belt off. And I'll check right back in. 16 millimeter. 16mm on there. Put a ton of path on it. Let's remember how our belt was ran. Snake the belt off. Now that it's off here. Alright. A huge difference in the size of the belt, so you're not going to confuse which belt went where, that's for sure. I'll go ahead and get these out. Okay, so the orientation of the pulley is incredibly important. And these two marks right here are singling out this single bolt hole. Perhaps this is also a reference. I don't think that is by coincidence. So the pulley, this bolt hole, is singled out in a different pattern. In other words, these pulleys will only go on if the orientation of these bolts is correct. And this bolt right here that's in the 5 o'clock position is in that position. This is why on our JHM crank pulley we have that one witness mark bolt there. So in theory, this crank pulley comes off. That was up and down. And our JHM pulley goes on the exact same way with that bolt hole lined up in that 5 o'clock position. So I'm gonna mess around with trying to put this on and I'll check back in. Okay, so I want to take a second and point out and make sure that you can see exactly what we're hunting for here. It's those two dots. These two dots right there are singling out that bolt hole, and that's what we saw on our other pulley. The one thing I want to add is JHM supplies some bolt hardware with the kit that's really nice, because the